the jacket on. That was, of course, the last of the auctions I did today. And what an amazing auction. Tim, you probably didn't see it, but we had a property. We had 4 or 5 people bidding. It's so good because there's transparency there. People could see it. The property sold over reserve price. And, people are happy, and they're particularly happy, Tim, because at the moment, if you're a buyer, if you're a seller, or if you're a real estate agent, if you're a tenant, if you're a landlord, if you're a property manager, right as of this moment, we're in limbo. We don't have 100% certainty what's going to actually happen, because you've been very kind enough to explain to me the difference between a media release and a public health order. And at the moment, Tim, we don't have a public health order. So over to you. What do we know, Tim?
Yeah, unfortunately, Tom, you're right. I guess what I'm saying to everybody right now is that I just don't know. We're getting questions coming at us left, right, and centre, and I haven't seen the public health order. I mean, you can't give advice based on a media release. People would have seen the Premier today. They'll watch the news tonight, and they'll know as much as I do. But what I'm waiting on is the public health order, so I can actually say to people, this is what you can and you can't do. I can make some educated guesses, but I have to underline, Tom, that what they are guesses. Our friends in the Fairfield, Canterbury, Bankstown, Liverpool area, pretty clear from the press release that they are going to have additional sanctions replaced on them. So they're going to have to deal with that. I'm not quite sure exactly what that's going to look like. We're looking for definitions of essential industries, essential workers. And I think that will probably change from the local government areas that we just spoke about and the Greater Sydney. Bit of good news. The only good news I can say is the regional areas. You good folks out there, nothing's going to change in your world, but there's question marks all over what we're doing here. One of the questions I've had, Tom, is in relation to whether or not real estate real estate practice is a retail industry. In my view, it's not. So that means that capture that we were talking about earlier today, when the Premier said they're going to shut down a lot of the retail outlets, we're probably not caught by that. Probably. But the question is going to be whether or not my assessment there is right. And as soon as we've got the public health order, Tom, I will read it and I'll let you know about it, mate. Okay, so as we stand right now, these rules that are coming into place were coming into place tonight anyway, isn't it? Midnight tonight. Yeah. So that's right. So they're coming into place at 1 minute past 12 tonight. And allegedly, and underline that, allegedly come to an end on the 30th of July. But we shall see where that goes. It's a very, very fluid environment. I'm not telling anybody anything they don't already know in that respect. Okay, so the reality is right at this moment, we don't know 100% whether you can go to work on Monday into your office, whether you can do a private inspection, whether you can do a listing presentation, whether you can do any of the things that you were doing for the last week or two. We don't know that. We're going to have a public health order that hopefully we'll get tomorrow. Tim, you'll be kind enough, if you have got information, to come on tomorrow, because there's a lot of people going to go to bed on Sunday night and they're not going to know what's going on. Yeah, no, absolutely, Tom. I'm grateful for the opportunity to use your channel out into the market to be able to make people aware of what's going on. And like every other industry right now, where there's a giant question mark over what we can do and what we can't do. I think that our friends in those local government areas that we spoke about, I think they're gonna have the biggest challenges. My suspicion is in the Greater Sydney area that we will be able to continue on as we were. That's my suspicion. But we shall have to wait. We're not holding you to that. So don't stress. We're not holding you to that. But
A rough guess could be Harder, Southwest, Fairfield, Canterbury, Bankstown, probably wherever the COVID seems to be sort of higher. The rest of Sydney, fingers crossed that we can continue. My worry is that we're simultaneously got a lockdown in Victoria, who a lot of people are watching this as well, and they, of course, can't do private inspections. They can't do anything at the moment. They're basically a full virtual business, you know?
Yeah,
So-
that's right. One of the questions that I'm asking myself at this stage, and no doubt other people will be asking me, and I'm talking about the Fairfield, Bankstown, Liverpool area here, is whether or not inside that area you can go to work, because we do know that you have to stay at home. We do know that you can't leave that area unless you are an essential worker, so paramedics, police, and all of that. But the question is, can I actually work in that area? So I don't leave it, but I go and do my my private inspections, and I do my thing in that area. So I haven't got an answer to that. The other question that I'm asking myself is, if I live outside of that area, but my office is inside that area, can I go in there? So, there's so much uncertainty here, Tom. I'm really sorry to everybody listening that I'd love to be able to say this is what you do and this is what you don't do, but we're just not in that position.
So, Tim, I'm going to have a calculated guess. This is based on just being rational. This is based on having some common sense. Even if there's an extreme measure that is to mirror Victoria, I would be surprised if there wasn't any provisions that would allow the super urgent stuff. Like, example, if someone needs to be living in a house and has to go into that house that day, right? Whether you're a tenant or whether you're a buyer and you've just bought it and you've got to move out of it and go into another one, I've got a funny feeling people like that aren't going to be left sleeping on the road. They're going to have provisions.
No, look, I agree. I know last year when government was shutting everybody down, and we were on the hit list at that stage, they said, we're going to shut real estate down. We said, well, hang on a second. What happens when people are moving in and out of property? What happens when the hot water system breaks in a tenanted property? What happens? And, the lights came on, and ultimately they said, well, okay, I get that. And that's the reason that we preserved our position and were able to continue working, was because when it gets right down to the basics, Tom, we need food, we need water, we need shelter. And that was what I think government identified ultimately.
So, guys and girls, the good news is you're going to have a captive audience for a couple of weeks, which means if you ring people up, they'll probably have time to speak to you. So don't rush off to Dan Murphy's and buy 96 bottles of wine because you've got an excuse to say there's nothing for me to do. You can still pick up the phone, make a welfare call. Hey, it's Tom Panos here from the real estate. It's business as usual in very unusual times. Is there any help I can give you at this time? I reckon if you called your database, that big database that you've all got that often has got people that shouldn't be there in the first place, good chance to clean it all out. Tim, have a good break, have a good weekend. And if there's any news, send me a text tomorrow and we'll come up here. Guys and girls, signing off.
Good night, everybody, and good luck. We'll bring you up to date just as soon as we can. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.